Imagine holding in your hands a book so ancient and enigmatic that it has defied every codebreaker, linguist and scientist who has ever laid eyes on it. A manuscript penned more than 6 centuries ago, whose pages whisper secrets about plants that never grew on Earth, women bathing in strange green pools, and above all celestial diagrams that seem to map the stars themselves in ways no medieval scholar should have known. Now picture this. What if those very star charts, those mysterious circles filled with labeled nymphs clutching tiny glowing orbs, are not random astrological doodles, but precise coordinates pointing straight to a distant red dwarf star system only discovered by modern telescopes in 2016, a system harboring 7 Earth-sized worlds, some of them potentially cradling liquid water and even life. It sounds like the setup for the wildest science fiction thriller, yet the Voynich Manuscript and the stellar coordinates of TRAPPIST-1 sit at the heart of one of the most mind-bending coincidences in the history of human curiosity. If you love diving into unsolved mysteries that blend the medieval with the cosmic, mysteries that make you question everything we think we know about our past and our place in the universe, then stay with me, because this story is going to unfold layer by layer, revelation by revelation, and by the end, you might never look at an old book or a distant star the same way again. Hit that like button if you're already hooked, subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown, and let's begin our journey through time and space. The tale of this extraordinary volume starts in the quiet shadows of history, long before its modern rediscovery. Carbon dating of the vellum pages places its creation firmly between 1404 and 1438, right in the heart of the early Renaissance in Europe, when great minds were beginning to question the old ways and peer more closely at the heavens. The ink and pigments are ordinary for the period, iron gall for the text, azurite blues and ochres for the illustrations. But what they depict is anything but ordinary. The manuscript changed hands through some of the most intriguing figures of the age. There are hints it once belonged to the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, a man obsessed with alchemy and the occult, who reportedly paid a small fortune for a book written in an unknown tongue. It may have passed through the hands of the Elizabethan magus John Dee, who was rumored to have carried strange hieroglyphic volumes across Europe in his quest for angelic communication. By the 17th century, it surfaced in the library of an alchemist in Prague, then vanished into Jesuit collections until 1912, when Wilfrid Voynich, that sharp-eyed Polish book dealer with a nose for the bizarre, spotted it in a villa outside Rome. He brought it to London, showed it to scholars, and the world has been obsessed ever since. Today, the 240 surviving pages rest in the Beinecker Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale, under the call number MS-408, guarded like the priceless enigma it is. Yet despite a century of scrutiny by the brightest cryptographers, including those who cracked the Enigma code during World War II, no one has ever read a single sentence with confidence. The script flows like a real language, words repeat in patterns that follow Zipf's law just like English or Latin, but it matches no known tongue, living or dead. Some call it a hoax crafted by a genius to fool the rich and powerful. Others insist it is a genuine record of forbidden knowledge. And then there are those who look at the astronomical sections and wonder if the real secret is written not in words, but in the positions of the stars themselves. Turn to the astronomical and cosmological pages, and you enter a realm that feels almost prophetic. There are 17 folios crammed with circular diagrams, each one a wheel of concentric rings populated by 30 or more graceful female figures, nymphs, as researchers affectionately call them, mostly nude, floating or standing, each one holding a star or tethered to one by delicate lines that look like cords of light. The stars are labeled in that same unreadable script, as though the nymphs themselves are guardians of celestial knowledge. One diagram after another shows the symbols of the zodiac: a bull for Taurus, a pair of fish for Pisces, a centaur archer for Sagittarius, aiming his bow with eerie precision. Aries and Taurus are each split across 4 paired pages, 15 nymphs and 15 stars apiece, as if the artist wanted to emphasize multiplicity and motion. The sun appears with a human face, radiant and watchful. The moon shares the same treatment, serene and pale. And then there is the famous folio 68R3, where a tight cluster of exactly 7 small stars glows together in a grouping that every astronomer instantly recognizes as the Pleiades, the seven sisters of Greek myth, yet rendered here with a medieval twist that makes them feel alive, almost pulsing with meaning. Nearby folios show the moon crossing that cluster, wavy lines connecting the orbs in ways that some interpreters have suggested hint at orbital mechanics far ahead of their time. The cosmological section takes it even further with its enormous six-page fold-out known as the Rosettes diagram, a breathtaking map of 9 interconnected circular islands linked by causeways, some containing castles, one possibly a volcanic vent. The whole thing radiating outward like a model of the solar system, or perhaps something grander, a map of multiple worlds orbiting a common center. Curiously, the pages that should depict Aquarius and Capricornus, the final 2 signs of the zodiac, are missing, ripped or lost centuries ago. Think about that for a moment. Aquarius, the water-bearer pouring life-giving streams across the sky, is precisely where TRAPPIST-1 resides today. Could that absence be accidental, or was someone trying to hide a connection that was never meant for medieval eyes? Now fast forward more than 500 years to a small observatory in the Chilean desert. In 2016, a team of astronomers using the TRAPPIST-South telescope began noticing tiny, rhythmic dips in the light of an unremarkable red star in the constellation of Aquarius. Those dips were planets passing in front of their sun, and what they revealed was nothing short of revolutionary. The star, officially named 2MASS J230629280502285, but forever known as TRAPPIST-1, sits at right ascension 23 hours, 6 minutes and 29 seconds, declination -5 degrees, 2 minutes and 29 seconds. In other words, exactly where the missing Aquarius page of the Voynich Manuscript would have pointed if anyone in 1430 had possessed a telescope capable of seeing it. The distance is a mere 40 light-years, close enough in cosmic terms that light leaving those planets when the Voynich was being written would only now be reaching our detectors. TRAPPIST-1 is an ultra-cool M-dwarf, barely larger than Jupiter, glowing a deep crimson with a surface temperature around 2,566 Kelvin, so dim that you would need to stand on its closest planet to see it as anything brighter than a dull ember in the sky. Yet around this faint star orbit 7 rocky worlds, each one roughly Earth-sized, packed so tightly that their years last only days. Planet B whips around in 1.5 Earth days, C in 2.4, D in 4, E in 6.1, F in 9.2, G in 12.4, and H in nearly 19 days. They are locked in a beautiful orbital resonance, dancing like a cosmic clockwork where the inner planets tug on the outer ones in perfect mathematical harmony, 8.5, 5.3, 3.2 ratios that keep the system stable for billions of years. What makes TRAPPIST-1 truly special, and what keeps astronomers awake at night, is the habitable zone. 3, possibly 4 of those planets, E, F, G, and maybe D, lie at distances where liquid water could exist on the surface or just beneath it. Because the star is so cool and so close, the planets are likely tidally locked, one face forever turned toward the red sun, the other locked in eternal night. Yet models suggest that thick atmospheres or vast subsurface oceans could circulate heat, creating temperate twilight zones where life might thrive. JWST has already begun its scrutiny. In 2023 and 2024, it peered at Planet B and found no thick hydrogen envelope and no Venus-like runaway greenhouse. Planet C seems airless, or nearly so. Planet E remains tantalizingly ambiguous, with possible hints of a thin atmosphere or even methane. The outer worlds F, G, and H may be covered in global oceans beneath icy shells, warmed from below by tidal flexing, that could drive volcanic activity and nutrient cycles, just like the hydrothermal vents on our own ocean floors. Imagine standing on the surface of TRAPPIST-1e at dusk, the red sun hanging motionless in a lavender sky, 7 other worlds visible as bright crescents overhead, their own lights perhaps twinkling with city glow if intelligence has taken hold. The system is 40 light-years away, yet the light we see left there when Columbus was still a boy. If the Voynich Manuscript really does encode those coordinates, then someone in the 15th century knew exactly where to look, long before Galileo turned his telescope to the stars. Now here is where the story becomes almost impossibly strange. Look again at the Pleiades cluster on folio 68R3, 7 stars arranged in a tight formation that mirrors the 7 planets of TRAPPIST-1. Coincidence? Perhaps. But add the fact that the nymphs in the zodiac wheels are arranged in rings that could represent orbital paths, each holding a star whose position relative to the center might encode right ascension and declination if you overlay the diagrams on a modern star map. The Rosettes fold-out, with its 9 interconnected circles, 7 inner ones for the planets, perhaps 2 more for the star and an outer companion, looks eerily like a schematic of a multi-planet system viewed edge-on. Exactly the geometry astronomers use when they study transits. The bathing nymphs in the balneological section, immersed in green, star-speckled pools connected by pipes, suddenly feel less like medieval spa illustrations and more like representations of water worlds exchanging material through gravitational tides. And that missing Aquarius page? It is as if the map was deliberately incomplete, hiding the final piece until humanity had telescopes capable of confirming what was already drawn. Some amateur researchers have spent years overlaying the star labels onto coordinate grids and claim that certain glyph clusters translate numerically into the exact hours, minutes, and seconds of TRAPPIST-1's position. Others point out that the Voynich script's statistical structure, word length, repetition, entropy, matches what you might expect from a coordinate table disguised as language. Whether these alignments are real or the product of pattern-seeking minds, they refuse to go away. Even more provocative is a short science fiction story published just a few years ago by the legendary author Harry Turtledove. In manuscript tradition, set in the 23rd century, a curator at Yale's Beinecke Library notices that fresh images beamed back from a probe orbiting a planet in the TRAPPIST-1 system match the Voynich illustrations down to the smallest detail. The blue flowers with golden centers, the starfish leaves, the peppermint-striped stalks, even the strange stone pools and the script carved on an alien statue base. The protagonist realizes the manuscript was not written on Earth at all. It was the travel diary of an immortal refugee who crash-landed here around 1400, fleeing a war on his homeworld, and who spent the next 6 centuries blending into human society while guarding the record of where he came from. The story ends with the janitor who has quietly worked at the library for decades vanishing into the night after his house burns down, leaving behind the implication that the Voynich was never a hoax or a medieval herbal. It was a message in a bottle flung across 40 light-years and half a millennium of time. Fiction, of course. Yet when you place that tale beside the missing Aquarius page, the 7-star cluster, and the precise coordinates encoded perhaps in the very diagrams, the line between imagination and possibility begins to blur in the most exhilarating way. Consider the implications if even a fraction of this speculation holds water. It would mean that either time travelers, interstellar visitors, or some lost civilization with technology far beyond what we credit the 15th century possessed already knew about TRAPPIST-1 and its habitable worlds. It would rewrite the history of astronomy, turning the Voynich from a curiosity into the first exoplanet catalogue ever compiled. It would suggest that the bathing nymphs are not fantasies, but portraits of beings adapted to water-rich environments, that the strange plants are specimens brought back from an alien biosphere, and that the entire manuscript is a survival manual or a warning, or perhaps an invitation. Skeptics will rightly point out that carbon dating confirms the parchment is medieval, that the statistical patterns of the text could be produced by a clever forger, and that the human brain is wired to see faces and patterns in clouds. Yet even the skeptics cannot explain why the Rosettes diagram looks so much like a transit diagram, why the Pleiades appear exactly 7 times in a system of 7 worlds, or why the constellation that houses TRAPPIST-1 is the one conspicuously absent from the zodiac wheels. The coincidences stack up like cards in a house that refuses to fall, no matter how hard you breathe on it. As we stand here at the crossroads of medieval mystery and 21st century discovery, it is worth remembering that every great leap in human knowledge began with someone daring to ask the impossible question. The Voynich manuscript has survived wars, fires, and centuries of neglect, precisely because it refuses to yield its secrets easily. TRAPPIST-1, meanwhile, is only now revealing its wonders to our space telescopes, and each new observation brings us closer to understanding whether we are alone or whether life is scattered across the galaxy like seeds on the wind. Perhaps the manuscript is nothing more than an elaborate herbal and astrological notebook created by a brilliant but eccentric mind. Or perhaps it is the oldest map we possess to our nearest cosmic neighbors, a document that waited patiently through the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and the Space Age, until our technology caught up with its vision. Either way, the act of looking, really looking, at both the ancient pages and the distant starlight forces us to expand our sense of wonder and our definition of what it means to be human. So the next time you gaze up at the constellation Aquarius on a clear autumn night, remember that somewhere out there, 40 light-years away, a faint red star is shining on worlds that might already know our story, or might be waiting for us to decode theirs. The Voynich Manuscript and the stellar coordinates of TRAPPIST-1 may never give up all their secrets, but the questions they raise will keep us searching, dreaming, and reaching for the stars for centuries to come. If this journey through history and the cosmos has sparked even a fraction of the awe I feel every time I revisit these pages and these planets, then do me a favor right now. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into the unknown, and drop a comment below with your own theory. Is the Voynich a medieval hoax, an alien diary, or something in between? Could those nymphs really be holding the keys to habitable exoplanets? Tell me what you believe, because your ideas might be the next clue in this eternal puzzle. Thank you for spending this time with me among the stars and the silent pages of history. Until next time, keep looking up, because the universe is full of manuscripts waiting to be read, and the next chapter might already be written in light that left TRAPPIST-1 before humanity even learned to write. Safe travels through the cosmos, my friends. I'll see you in the next mystery.